Hi, everyone. Happy Father's Day. When I was a kid, my dad worked in exploration gold mining, which is very cool, and I can tell you all about that later. But what's important for you to know is that meant that most of his work days were spent out in the fields and Arizona deserts, sometimes on and around mining rigs. A lot of hard work. When he would get home after a long day and sit down in his big recliner, I would be so excited. I wanted to climb all over him for cuddles. I wanted to tell him all about my day. I wanted to ask him the 8 million questions that had occurred to me since he left that morning. But we had a rule in our house: no bugging Daddy until he had taken his work boots off. My dad's work boots would come home caked in the dust of the Arizona desert, smelling like leather and diesel. I can still picture the way they looked, because I would sit on the floor at his feet, aware of the house rule, watching and waiting for him to finally loosen those perfectly tied laces, brush the dust of the workday off his feet, and be ready for me to command all of his attention. Sounds really relaxing, right? You've just come home from a long day, and there's a kid, and it's not just any kid, it's kid me, really excited to explode with 1,000 questions and stories and just general kid energy. But my memories of my dad coming home from work and taking off his boots don't ever include any tension. He never seemed exasperated or irritated with me. Instead, to this day, whenever I smell that combination of Arizona desert and diesel fuel, I'm taken back to an experience of patient presence. And I should tell you, I didn't know it was diesel for most of my life. I was an adult when I was somewhere and it smelled like diesel, and I went, "Oh, isn't that wonderful?" And my friend said, "That is diesel fumes." My dad is not a religious man. But as I reflected on these passages for today in preparation to preach on Father's Day, it occurred to me that he is quite good at living out at least one of Christ's precepts, the one from today's gospel. Let your peace return to you. I work with kids. Most of you know that. For those of you who are new, hi, I'm the Youth and Children's Minister. And when I'm not ministering to our children here, I'm doing something with kids somewhere else, so I know how this usually goes, right? How many of us here have tried to share our peace with a child who needed some? And how many times has that child rejected or refused that peace? And then, how easy is it to let that peace return to you? The fancy word for this skill is co-regulation. I took 1 million parenting workshops, so you don't have to. Co-regulation. When an adult is dealing with a child who is what we would call dysregulated, they're upset, they're tantruming, they're shut down, they're not listening, they're not peaceful, it's very easy for us to fall into that space with the child. We might feel anger. We might feel insecurity about our own ability to manage this child. We might feel frustration with the situation. And we might respond with yelling or coercion or shame. And while these responses might work sometimes to curb the behavior, they don't have the effect of sharing peace with the child or bringing peace back to ourselves. Co-regulation means to do for a child or another person what God does for us in today's scriptures. Co-regulation says, I know you're not getting what you want. I know I'm asking you to do a hard thing. Raise the dead, cure all sicknesses, wait patiently for Dad. But I'm here with you through the hard thing. I'm here for your frustration and your difficult feelings, and when we're both ready, I have some peace you can share. In today's gospel, Jesus tells his disciples that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. That's a familiar feeling. How many of us have looked out at the devastation of our world, all the violence and hatred and greed and ignorance, and thought, there is so much work to be done? The task feels overwhelming, and I'm just one person. How many of us have had that same thought while looking at our family's calendar or the inside of our fridge? The harvest is plentiful. There is so much work to be done, so many people to be helped, so much goodness that needs to be honored and protected, but the laborers are few. Who will help? How will I get everything done? Not a thought that brings a lot of peace. But Jesus doesn't call us to go out and exhaust ourselves in pursuit of the impossible, despite the raise the dead and cure the sick statement. He doesn't say, give your peace to everyone who needs it until you have none left. He says, share your peace, but don't squander it. Look after others, but look after yourself as well. Peace throughout the Bible is often associated with water, and here peace works like water as well. You can't pour from an empty vessel. Okay, sounds great. Advice from Jesus. Do hard work, but don't let the hardness of the work get you down. Share your peace with people, but if it doesn't go well, just let that peace come back to you. Great, all right. Easier said than done. But we're not asked to do it on our own. We aren't expected to simply conjure up peace in the face of an overwhelming or maddening situation. Because when children are feeling dysregulated, because when we are children feeling dysregulated, we have the ultimate co-regulator as a loving, ever-present parent. In today's epistle reading, which is a passage I really like, we're reminded that God's loving presence is our birthright, poured into us. It's always available. Even when we have no peace in ourselves, when it's all been spilled out, when we've tried everything and nothing has come back to us, God is there. God's peace, God's love, God's joy, God's wisdom are always and already there, even for the dysregulated, the confused, the frustrated, the sinner. When a child is crying or upset, we don't say, I will be there for you once you calm down. That doesn't make any sense because it is our presence that helps the child find calm. We do not require children to act perfectly or succeed at everything before we are lovingly present to them. It goes the other way. It is our loving presence that lets them learn and grow. So God offers us this same co-regulating presence of a loving parent. God says, there is always peace here, peace for you, no matter what else is happening, no matter what you have done or failed to do, it is there. Let it come back to you. That word return. It was always yours. It was always there. You need only to let it return to you. And how do children accept the co-regulation of a loving parent? Picture a situation in your life when you've been present to a child who is having a hard time. Each child and each situation is different. Sometimes they want to be held. Sometimes they need space to feel all their feelings. Some want to talk it out. Some want a playful distraction. And God, too, is big enough for all the many different ways that we receive our peace. As a child of God, how do you nestle into the loving, holy co-regulation when you need it? Centering prayer, a good book, a walk outside, sacred music. Jesus doesn't tell his disciples to get everything done. He simply invites them into the harvest. He warns them that things won't be easy, but promises his own loving presence through the difficulties. He doesn't tell his disciples that they're responsible for everyone around them. He, in fact, discusses the inevitability that their peace might not be peacefully received. But he only makes them responsible for their own choices. He reminds them to care for themselves and to be mindful and intentional about where they spend their energy. He doesn't require his disciples to create their own peace, only to let the peace that has already been poured into them return. To be aware of their own need for peace and open to its return. He uses the metaphor of cleaning their feet, then goes on later on in this gospel to actually get down and clean their feet for them. These are all healthy boundaries, something we're all trying to teach and maintain with our children, and something that God, I think, is the ultimate parenting expert in. My dad knew he couldn't scold or shame me out of being excited to see him after a long day, nor did he want to. He did not respond with avoidance. He did not try to ignore what was going on. But he also wasn't obligated to give up his own decompression time just because I wanted his attention right away. He took the time to release the stress of the workday, to brush the dust off his own feet, and then welcome me into his peace. In those quiet moments together, as he slowly took his boots off, he taught me so much. He modeled how an adult might hold on to their own peace. He allowed me space to take responsibility for my own energy, peace, or lack thereof. And he laid a foundation for future connection and strange statements at gas stations. And now I'm not comparing my dad to the Almighty, right? He's just a person. But as I think about these passages on Father's Day and the story that I wanted to tell you about sitting with my dad and his work boots, I think how blessed we are to have such a powerful and perfect co-regulating parent in our God. One who asks big things of us but does not leave us to attempt them on our own. One who does not wait for us to be perfect before showering us in perfect love. One who has made holy peace our birthright and teaches us over and over again how to live and share and know that holy peace.